The idea of bringing to you series of lectures on communication research is because there is very little work that has an Indian context to communication research. To fill that void, we thought of bringing you updated information about different dimensions of research pertaining to communication and media studies. In that series, we will be today talking about qualitative research. But before I do that, I just want to make a distinction between, a slight distinction between what is communication and media research and how it actually is inspired by social science research but has a distinct feature of its own, primarily because you are looking at media entities, you are looking at how people get influenced through we have large proliferation of media technologies today in the form of social network sites, then you have mobile telephony. So all of these are trying to influence the way we lead our lives. And apart from that, we also have a very niche area in which communication research does have a very strong presence, and that is in the area of development communication. So having understood that communication and media research studies have a distinct form and distinct context, we will still be guided by the social sciences guidelines, steps, and also an area of qualitative research which has come into being because you are dealing with people, and communication deals with interplay of people's views, ideas, and does this within the context of culture. So let's begin with communication research in the context of qualitative research. Now through this session I'll take you to different steps which are there which we need to identify when we are looking at qualitative research. One would be to discuss what is qualitative research, how it is different from quantitative research, material and methods of qualitative research, sampling procedure, and tools of qualitative research. So when we look at qualitative research, we have to keep the context in mind, and that is that we follow a set pattern, which is that we follow what we call as 7 basic steps of research. That is selecting a topic, then we focus questions, we design the study, we collect data, we analyze the data, we interpret the data, and then you do a wider dissemination. So let's take things one by one. When you select a topic, the choice of topic is dependent on the subject you have specialized in. As a teacher or a student of media and communication research, you may be interested in exploring the new media technologies and their impact on the social trends. This is one of the examples that we can take, because nowadays we are looking at how media technologies or communication technologies have really saturated our area of getting to know the reality. I mean, it's actually a mediated reality that we look at. So from this broader overview of media and society, we can select a particular issue. The census data recently, which came last week, has provided a good source about changing pattern in the use of mass media and ownership. It has shown us that more and more people are turning towards mobile telephony as compared to, let's say, radio and newsprint, though they are still very loyal to television. So for example, topic can be the shifts in audience use of different media and the rising popularity of mobile as a new medium of communication. This is just an example. You can have any other topic which you are interested in, which you have been researching in, and that can be taken as a kind of a beginning to understand different steps in research. Now next issue is of, it's a big area, so how will you actually identify what would you like to really focus on? And that's you actually raise questions. And in this context of what we are talking of mobile telephony, we can reduce it to a very specific question, and that is, mobile is cheapest and the convenient communication medium, but there is a class and gender segregation in its use. So, that is to look at how mobile is now commonly used, is available, but still there are chances that class and gender plays an important role in its use in rural as well as in urban areas. Now, second thing is that looking at the topic, you can now think of designing a study, and design is determined by what area you are trying to investigate. And in this topic that we have decided to take up, we are looking at more those issues which are in the realm of power, in the realm of values, in the realm of gender, and for that we need a different kind of a orientation and a setup. So, at this stage we make a crucial decision, either we take a quantitative or a qualitative study, or we can take a hybrid method depending what we would like to investigate. And if we want to get a deeper insight, then we have to look at qualitative method. For example, how many respondents do we choose from the population of mobile users, and where do we have to conduct the study? Are we going to conduct the study in a rural setup or in an urban setup, and whether, and this will be dependent on how mobile telephony has made its presence in rural versus urban, or you can look at the phenomena in terms of that it's slowly spreading to the rural areas. So, that will decide whether you want to use a combination or a single method of qualitative research. Now, the subsequent step is of, once you collect the data using either of the method, then you have to analyze the data from different sources, whether you employ different survey methods or you employ quantitative or a qualitative research methods. You will be able to collect a lot of data, and once the data has been collected, then you have to interpret the data, find out the meaning, finding out a pattern which was not earlier, or which was earlier thought of as a possibility, but now you have actually a valid data to make an interpretation. And then the last is that through reports and journal papers you make wider dissemination of this finding. Now, how do you choose qualitative or a quantitative approach? So, you have to choose the right design. For that, the critical determinants are it should be, your approach should actually be well suited to the design of your study, because if you want to collect a very population based data, then you have to get into a survey method, because there you are looking at how many mobile users are there in a particular region or a particular setting. For that, then you have to look for a quantitative. But if you want to see how people are using a mobile telephone, when do they use it, and for what purposes they are using it, and what kind of affinity they have developed it with that particular instrument, then you have to go for a qualitative approach. Then you have to look at time and resources that you have. If you have a very limited time and your budget is very minimal, then you have to go for a qualitative approach. And also whether you are looking at the results in the context of a very national level findings, or you are looking at a very micro level assessment of the trends and the reality relating to mobile telephony in a particular region. Now, let's talk about qualitative research, because this session is about qualitative research, and primarily we will be looking at what and how we can use qualitative research and in what way it is different from a quantitative research. So, you can plan whether you would like to increasingly use qualitative research, because the dimensions of communication research are becoming little wider, different, and we need to understand that people and their psychosocial behavior, and for that qualitative research is more appropriate. And increasingly, because development has become an important fixture in our lives, we need to look at how people are accessing development. So we have seen over the years that development institutions like health, education, rural development, microfinancing, they are all using qualitative research to look at why people are not able to access the fruits of development, how certain people are segregated, what are the constraints, and also it is also being used in a market research setup, because increasingly the markets have been getting expanded. They are actually entering rural areas. They have really set up base in smaller towns, where it is necessary to understand how people make a distinction between a branded product as compared to a locally made available product. And as India is one of the youngest countries in the world, we would also like to understand how young people make decisions. And what are the, because culturally we are in a transitional phase, there is a modern approach to life, there are still traditional values and mores which are intact. So we need to look at how young people also make decisions when they go and buy certain products. So market agencies also would like to understand this phenomena of social behavior in respect to consumers. Here I would like to just bring in two aspects. One is of a grounded theory and inductive approach. Now, what is grounded theory? Grounded theory is a qualitative method, as Strauss and Coben mentioned in 1990, that you look at the micro level phenomena. You try to understand what people are doing at a very micro individual community level, and from there you deduce, from there you actually draw certain points which have a more macro level explanation. So that is the reason why qualitative research tries to adopt the grounded theory, and it gets its sanction from the grounded theory, which actually tries to suggest that you need to understand the ideas, the events at the micro level, and then attribute their relationship, their meaning for a very larger reality. And from there a researcher can build ideas and theoretical generalizations by closely examining and creatively thinking about the data. We cannot be dismissive about something which is happening at a micro level. Maybe the numbers are limited, maybe we are looking at a very micro level reality, but I think it has meaning for a larger level understanding of how national, regional trends are surfacing. For example, if you look at HIV/AIDS infected people, looking through the grounded theory, we have actually gone down to the level of individual experiences, how people feel about being HIV positive, the kind of stigma which is associated within the family, within the community, and within the health system, that makes people go underground. They don't access the services which are available, and you have a higher HIV/AIDS prevalence in the country because of this reason. So we would like to give it a theoretical design. It's not that qualitative research is a very loose area of study. It's actually in the context of grounded theory and inductive approach that we follow this particular method of research. So some people say, is qualitative research unscientific? Well, no, it's not, because you're not dealing with numbers and you're dealing with people does not suggest that it is unscientific. In fact, it develops its own parameters which are scientific, and we will see how qualitative research is very close to quantitative research in many ways, but still there is a divergence which is happening, and for valid reasons. It is precise, it is rigorous, it is capable of replication, and it's capable of generalization. तो हम ये देखते हैं कि क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च जो है उसमें वो सारी सारे एलिमेंट्स हैं जो उसको साइंटिफिक बनाते हैं, उसको एक अनसाइंटिफिक अप्रोच नहीं देते हैं, बल्कि उसके जो रिजल्ट्स हैं वो वैसे ही वैलिड हैं, वैसे ही साइंटिफिक हैं, वैसे ही उनका रेप्लिकेशन देखा जा सकता है जैसे क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च का। अब हम देखते हैं कि हाउ इज क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च अ टाइप ऑफ अ साइंटिफिक रिसर्च। सी बेसिकली इन जनरल टर्म्स scientific research consists of an investigation that seeks answers to a question. Likewise, जैसे मैंने आपको शुरू में बताया that we thought of looking at mobile use in rural, in urban areas, whether it has increased over a period of time and how people are making use of it and how it is actually replacing their engagement with other mass media. तो वहाँ भी एक क्वेश्चन है, वहाँ भी आप उसको एक वेरीफाई करने जा रहे हैं, तो दैट इज़ ऑल्सो अ इन्वेस्टिगेशन दैट हैज़ बीन अंडरटेकन अंडर क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च। और जो फाइंडिंग्स आप पता करने जा रहे हैं, जैसे हम हाइपोथेसिस कहते हैं या प्रॉब्लम क्वेश्चन कहते हैं, वो भी अगर हम पहले ही डिफाइन कर रहे हैं क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च में, जैसे हम क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च में करते हैं, तो दैट ऑल्सो मेक्स इट अकिन टू a scientific research. Then qualitative research may be we are trying to understand the topic from a research point of view, because we are curious, we would like to investigate, we are looking at a social phenomena and we are not able to understand why suddenly mobile telephones have replaced people's interest and choices in other areas of communication technologies like radio, and also their need for mobile telephone as a companion. I mean, we remember in older days that we had a transistor. I would say transistor was a one-dimensional technology, but today mobile has been able to bring actually under its purview almost all kind of things that we associate with different modes of communication. Like it's a way to communicate, it's a way of entertainment, it's also actually providing you with information, a set of information. So it's giving you so much with one touch of a button. So qualitative research is especially effective in obtaining culturally specific information about the values that people hold, the beliefs that they have, the behaviors they practice, and all of this is within the context of social setting. कि वो जिस तरीके से व्यवहार करते हैं, जिस तरीके से सोचते हैं, जिस तरीके से चीज़ों का इस्तेमाल करते हैं, जो उनके beliefs हैं, वो किस माहौल में अलग अलग हो सकते हैं, किस माहौल में समान हो सकते हैं। अगर वो रूरल एरियाज़ में हैं तो वहाँ के जो कल्चरल वैल्यूज़ हैं, जो वहाँ की सोच है, वो बहुत हद तक डिटरमिन करेगी कि वहाँ किस तरह का सोशल बिहेवियर पाया जाएगा इन रिलेशन टू लेट्स से मोबाइल टेलीफोनी। और qualitative research does not work with numbers, that's how it is different from quantitative research, it works with people. And qualitative research जो social life है उसको ज़्यादा देखती है, जहाँ लोग रहते हैं, जहाँ culture है, जहाँ norms हैं, उसको देखते हैं. It does not deal with numbers as such, which is actually the domain of quantitative research. People and place within the context of a natural setting become more important rather than just the number of people and number of men and women. We are looking at a much broader scale and much broader canvas. जैसे अगर हम ये देखें आजकल social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, all these have become very popular with young people. तो ये देखने की ज़रूरत है कि जो इंटरनेट है या ब्रॉडबैंड कनेक्शन है जो घर के लेवल पर इस्तेमाल किए जाते हैं वो लोगों के लाइफ में उन्होंने क्या क्या विस्तार क्या क्या चेंजेस लाए हैं. वी आर ट्राइंग टू लुक एट हाउ ownership of a broadband connection at household level can bring about changes in the way people live their lives. I think if we go back almost 30 years back, we can see that how television brought about changes in the way we led our life on a routine basis. how everything changed, how interactions changed. Likewise, today we can see that mobile is actually replacing other technologies because people are changing the way they interact with each other. It's actually a mediated relationship that we are watching today happening in the world around us. What are the core elements? What are the significant basic elements of qualitative research? In fact, what makes it fundamentally different from quantitative research is that we see things through the eyes of the people whom we are studying. It is a research which is not led by the researcher, but it is actually, he is only a facilitator or she is only a facilitator. Then second thing is that we are describing a social reality. We are not trying to bring numbers to it, we are trying to actually explain, not just look at the cause and effect relationship, but we are also trying to look at the context, why people do things that they do. It can be because of not just gender, or can be because of gender, not just because of caste and class, but there could be some other things which are happening, the way those things are playing out in the social context that brings about a different kind of behavior. और हम तीसरी चीज़ जो है देखते हैं कि चीज़ें कैसे how they are actually getting enacted in the social setting. We are looking at how people lead their lives. It's not just that it is based on how people just respond to a question. We are actually looking at, as an observer, that you go and watch people, and it's more authentic than a quantitative study, because you are there to determine what people are saying is whether it is valid, because you can verify it from what you see there. And then you are also looking at because accordingly you have to design because if you are looking at what people are saying, you are looking at how the process is being enacted, then you have to have a structure, a design which is very flexible, and it should not actually limit or should not put constraints on what you are doing in the field. And another thing which has really helped qualitative research to gain a legitimacy, to gain importance, is that it derives its inspiration from ethnography also. Anthropology as well as ethnography. Now ethnography is a powerful tool in reorienting from merely gathering close-ended responses to getting closer to observing people in their natural habitat and extended immersions. That means you are looking at people, you are trying to gather data, you are trying to gather observation, you are trying to look at, by spending more time with people, you are not asking close-ended questions, because that will really be more deterministic. That is actually led by the researcher rather than the people that you are trying to study. And the key premise of ethnography is to delve deeper into people's mind as well as their reality, to uncover real beliefs and needs. We know that when we do communication research, you go and ask people, most of the time they will say yes or no, whichever is convenient. So it lot depends on the skill of the researcher, on the type of questions we are asking, the way we are asking those questions will actually give you valid answers from people. But ethnography allows you to get beyond what is publicly spoken about. So you are actually unfolding those layers of information which are there ingrained within the minds of the people, which becomes very difficult for you to access when you ask for very simple questions. So we have to look at qualitative research in the cultural, in the family and the life stage context. And we have to convert the discourse that we engage in with people during our question and answer session from a mere conversation to a more engaging time spent with people by observing them, by looking at their lives in a more empathetic way. So that will give us a real sense of how and what people do. and not what they would like to say about it. Now, as I said earlier, that seeing things through people's eyes, this is what qualitative research is. So it deals with people, it deals with their feelings, it deals with their experiences, and all of this is done within the context of cultural norms, values, which are considered significant by the people. So I think it's more objective because you are not putting some kind of agenda with which you are going to the field, you are actually letting your mind explore. So when you allow your mind to explore what people are doing, what kind of practices they follow, so you are going with an open mind and you will get enriched with the data or the information which you see there. And as I said earlier, that here you are not collecting numbers. Here you are actually going to describe the reality that you see. For example, if I come back to two situations that we have taken up, that how mobile is being utilized by people, or let's say HIV/AIDS as a disease which is spreading very fast in rural areas. I think we would like to see how the women in rural areas whose husbands have migrated for work to other places. So we would like to see that what is the context in which that behavior, which makes them susceptible to HIV/AIDS, because of gender, because of power equations, that women are kept behind and men go out, try to earn a wage, come back, and the kind of relationship that they have, it's very difficult for them to negotiate on issues of HIV/AIDS. So that is one area that we can look at that as a context to understand the social behavior. And something that we think, when we go as a researcher trying to collect data in numerical order, we are more interested in what is more obvious, what is more objective, and anything which deviates from that established procedure that we would like to see appears as irrational. But I think as a qualitative researcher, you need to be open, you need to go with an open mind. And another area which is very interesting, that we had done a study in rural Rajasthan about child marriages, and a basic premise is that child marriages are not really normal thing to do, because you're trying to take away childhood of a child by marrying her at a very early age. But when we went to rural Rajasthan, we looked at their conditions, and we got convinced that within the kind of constraints that they have, child marriage is perhaps it's an option. They have tried to offset any kind of a financial problem that they would have encountered there. So this is just to cite a kind of an example to again assert that we have to go with an open mind, look at the context in which people lead their life, what are the constraints that they have. So a researcher takes a very different role here in qualitative research. You're not going with a prior mindset, you're going there as an explorer. And that's why the emphasis is on the process. You want to see how people are actually going through their lives. So one day will not suffice. You'll have to actually live through that session where you would like to gather data. So most of the people who do qualitative research find it very exciting thing to do, to go and live in that area for some particular period of time to gather rich data. Otherwise you can just go fill up a schedule, come back, analyze it, it can become very clinical. But here you get a sense of living their lives. But this is not to suggest that you become very subjective. You still have to maintain your objectivity and gather data in a very scientific way. And for this reason, you have to have flexibility and limited structure in design. This does not mean that you don't have a structure of design, but what I'm trying to suggest is this, that you leave scope for some kind of changes, amendments, which can be made on the ground when you're doing field work. Because something can crop up, and that's how it should be. You should not limit your energies or limit your scope for understanding the social reality by subjecting yourself to only a schedule or a guideline, not going beyond that, because that's the way to enrich your data. Now I'll just take you through what are the differences between qualitative and quantitative research, just to try to say that in spite of the similarities, there are certain differences which I've already highlighted, but just to take you through a comparison will make it more meaningful and easy to understand. As Donald Campbell said, all research ultimately has a qualitative grounding, because you are trying to describe a social phenomena. So whether it is qualitative or a quantitative research, you are doing that. But there is another way of looking at it. As Fred Kerlinger said, there is no such thing as qualitative data. Everything is either 1 or 0, which means either it is there or it's not there, trying to make it very objective. Second difference is that the aim is a complete detailed description, whereas in quantitative you count them, you classify them, and use statistical models to explain what you see there in any social setting. Then third is, researcher may only know roughly in advance what she or he is looking for, whereas a researcher doing a quantitative survey will know in advance what he or she is looking for, because you've already made a statement of a problem statement of the kind of questions formulated for research in a quantitative type of research, whereas in a qualitative research it's more of an exploration. So you will go with certain set ideas, but you will still keep yourself ready to accept anything additional that you get. And as I said earlier, the design is not fixed, it can vary, it can change according to the situation. Of course, you have to take control of the situation, but you can still make it little more loose. Whereas in quantitative study, a researcher uses tools such as questionnaires and equipment to collect numerical data. Here the data is in the form of words, pictures, objects, visuals. And another distinction that we can make is that it is qualitative research is subjective, whereas you're dealing with events, you're dealing with your own observations, in-depth interviews that you take. So you're being guided by what people are telling you. Whereas when you do a quantitative research, you have a set number of questions, and most of them are close-ended, and you tend to seek information on that parameter. Qualitative data is more rich, time-consuming, and less able to be generalized, whereas quantitative data is more efficient, is able to test hypotheses, but may miss contextual detail. And researcher tends to become subjectively immersed in the subject matter, because you have to have empathy with your respondents to gather the kind of data you're looking for, rich data you're looking for, whereas a researcher in a quantitative survey would like to keep himself or herself little detached from what he is doing. तो हमने ये देखा कि अगर हम क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, उसमें बेसिकली हम लोगों को गिनते नहीं हैं. हमारे लिए जो मेन क्राइटेरिया है कि लोग क्या कहते हैं, क्या सोचते हैं और क्या कर रहे हैं. दैट्स मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर अस. एंड इसीलिए जो टूल्स हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं, उसका नेचर, उसका शेप अकॉर्डिंगली डिफरेंट है एज कम्पेयर टू क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च के टूल्स जो हैं. क्योंकि क्वांटिटेटिव में हम लोग सर्वे यूज़ करते हैं, क्वेश्चनेयर यूज़ करते हैं, चाहे वो मेल क्वेश्चनेयर हो चाहे फेस टू फेस हो जिसमें ज़्यादातर क्लोज एंडेड क्वेश्चंस होते हैं। तो यहाँ हम क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च में लोगों की सोच, जो अंदर सोच है, अंदर जो बिलीव्स हैं, इमोशंस हैं, उसके बारे में ज़्यादा जानने की कोशिश करते हैं। अब अगर क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च लोगों के लाइफ से जुड़ी हुई एक तरीका है रियलिटी जानने का, तो इसमें सबसे जो एक चैलेंजिंग एस्पेक्ट है कि उसका सैंपल क्या होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर टाइम लेता है तो कितना बड़ा समूह लोगों का होना चाहिए जिससे आपको बातचीत करनी है। तो इसके लिए हम जो देखते हैं सैम्पलिंग प्रोसीजर जो है, इसमें हम उसको कहते हैं नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग प्रोसीजर। तो चलिए देखते हैं कि कौन कौन से सैम्पलिंग प्रोसीजर्स हम अडॉप्ट कर सकते हैं। बेसिकली इस सेशन के लिए हम लोग बात करते हैं तीन तरह के जो सैम्पलिंग प्रोसीजर्स हैं। एक तो है पर्पसिव सैम्पलिंग, कोटा सैम्पलिंग एंड स्नोबॉल सैम्पलिंग। और ये अपने जो स्टडी का दायरा है, व्हाट वी आर लुकिंग फॉर इज द टाइप ऑफ सब्जेक्ट्स within the population, within the large population, you are looking for a selected subset of population। क्योंकि आपके पास टाइम नहीं है, आपके पास रिसोर्सेज इतने नहीं हैं, क्योंकि टाइम लगता है क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च करने में, तो उसके लिए जब आपका सैंपल होगा वो थोड़ा सा छोटा होगा, पर कोशिश ये होगी कि वो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव रहे और साथ ही साथ इतना बड़ा हो कि वो आपको आप जनरलाइज कर सकें, उसके जो रिजल्ट्स आपको मिलें उसको आप जनरलाइज कर सकें। तो जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल पर्पसिव सैम्पलिंग क्या है, डिपेंडिंग कि आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, आपका जो रिसर्च का ऑब्जेक्टिव है वो डिसाइड करता है कि आपको किस तरह के समूह, किस तरह के लोगों के बारे में क्वालिटेटिव डेटा चाहिए। तो सिलेक्शन क्राइटेरिया इज रेलेवेंट टू अ पर्टिकुलर रिसर्च क्वेश्चन। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर हम एक स्टडी कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं ऑन द नंबर ऑफ HIV पॉजिटिव विमेन इन इंडस्ट्रियल सेटिंग्स, जैसे महाराष्ट्र इज अ HIV पॉजिटिव हाई प्रेवलेंस स्टेट, और ये देखा गया है कि जितने भी हाईवेज हैं वहाँ के वो जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं वो वहाँ ज़्यादा है, HIV एड्स ज़्यादा है। और वो इसलिए है क्योंकि वहाँ ट्रैफिक बहुत रहता है, जिसे कहते हैं नेशनल हाईवे ट्रैफिक बहुत ज़्यादा रहता है। तो ये हमारा एक तरह से पर्पसिव सैंपल हो गया, एक तरह से उस एरिया में जो लोग रहते हैं, जो वहाँ हाईवे के आसपास रहते हैं, वहाँ की बिकॉज वी आर वॉचिंग अ ट्रेंड वेयर विमेन आर बिकमिंग मोर increasingly coming under the ambit of being positive. So we can look at women who are living around that area and then deriving inputs, deriving information, data from their lives, why they are becoming infected with HIV AIDS. और यहाँ डिपेंडिंग ऑन द रिसोर्सेज दैट वी हैव, टाइम अवेलेबल और ऑब्जेक्टिव्स क्या हैं, हमारा जो सैंपल होगा वो उतना होगा जितना हमारा टाइम हमें डिटर्मिन करेगा कि हमारे पास समय है। बट वी हैव टू इंश्योर दैट वी हैव अ एडिक्वेट नंबर ऑफ सैंपल विच विल टेल अस whatever we are trying to bring out in terms of results is valid. दूसरा क्या है, कोटा सैम्पलिंग। कोटा सैम्पलिंग अगर उसको मोटे मोटे तौर पर बताया जाए, कोटा सैम्पलिंग इज बेसिकली यू टेक सब पॉपुलेशन फ्रॉम डिफरेंट populations belonging to certain age, place of residence, gender, class, profession. So you can take a group of people, or let's say women, you can take a number of women of a particular age group, you can take women of a particular class, you can take women from a particular married or unmarried. So you can draw your quota from each subpopulation depending on their characteristics. So this can also help you in narrowing down your constituents of your population which you require as a sample for your study. And when we go into the community, we have to use recruitment strategies which are appropriate to the location, culture and study population. Because if you are working in a rural setting or in an urban setting, it becomes a challenge to recruit people for your study, because you are looking at a very small number, but you have already determined the subpopulation that you are looking for, where it is located. So you need to have exact type of population for your study, and that becomes उनको लेंगे कैसे, कहाँ जाएंगे, कैसे recruit करेंगे. That is a good challenge for people who work in qualitative research. तो तीसरा क्या है? तीसरा है snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is a easy method in the sense that it is dependent on, if you have limited resources, limited contact with people, if you know some people whom you have recruited for your study, they can help you to find out other people with similar characteristics. So it is used to find and recruit people who are actually part of a social network. And in fact, nowadays a lot of research is being conducted on how social media is engaging young people, and that helps one person, because of the availability of these people on Facebook and other such websites, can help you to get connected with other younger people. So, and that gives you a good number of people as subpopulation of the young people. So it's a very easy, but it has certain limitations that you are able to get only known people who are known to each other. So you may miss out on those who may not be part of the network. Now let's look at the what are the tools and techniques which are available to us. Once we have done sampling, we can look at what are the tools and techniques that we can also use. Basically, I would like to only highlight three research methods. One is participant observation, in-depth interview and focus groups. Increasingly, people are using in-depth interviews and focus groups because it's faster, it gives you at one go understanding of what a group behavior is, how they feel about a social phenomena, and you gather a rich data. The only problem is with participant observation, because you will have to spend time with people whom you are observing, and for that you need to know what is their routine and what kind of social phenomena you are trying to investigate. So something which is in the realm of privacy will become a very different thing in the context of, let's say, HIV/AIDS. But if you are looking at how people use mobile telephone, it's easy to have a focus group discussion, because you can engage young people together to sit in a group, and then you can throw an issue and people can start discussing, and you can start recording what people are talking about. So you're describing what people are saying. You're not actually recording how many people said what. You're only looking at what is being spoken, talked about. So these are the three areas. Another important area in qualitative research which is actually used in development sector is what we call as a rapid appraisal methods, which are participatory methods, and they are used mostly in the rural settings, and these are called Venn diagram analysis, social or resource mapping, and the transit walks. In fact, this was used increasingly in the pulse polio program. Pulse polio program, because was a program which was dependent on participation of people, because we had made available polio booths around the rural areas across the country, but there were certain subgroups which were not actually accessing those services. So a lot of attention was given to participatory research methods to find out what is stopping them, what are the constraints, what are the cultural taboos related to pulse polio, and once those data, that information was gathered, what people feel about pulse polio, why they are not able to counter cultural norms which prevent them from accessing those services, it became easier to counter them through strategic interventions by the health system. Now, what is the role of a researcher? Do you have to be different from a quantitative researcher? I think both require an understanding of the people, but a qualitative researcher has to listen because most of the data will actually come from the people when they talk. जब लोग बात करेंगे आपको सुनना है उन्हें, और जब आप सुनेंगे आप उसको रिकॉर्ड कर सकते हैं. जब आप उसको रिकॉर्ड करेंगे आपको उसको एनालाइज भी करना है, एंड उससे जुड़ा हुआ क्वेश्चन जो उस पूरी इन्फॉर्मेशन को कंप्लीट कर सकता है उससे रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन आपको पूछना है, विच विल प्रोब समथिंग दैट दे आर लिटिल हेजिटेंट टू स्पेल आउट. तो ही इज़ लाइक अ फ्रेंड. क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्चर इज़ लाइक अ फ्रेंड जो हु एंगेजेस इन अ कॉन्वर्सेशन. बट आपको एक चीज़ बहुत ध्यान में रखनी है, दैट यू शुड नॉट गेट कैरीड अवे बाय दैट होल प्रोसेस ऑफ कॉन्वर्सेशन, because agenda objective of the research should be kept in mind. जो process है of qualitative research का, जिसमें हम बातचीत करते हैं लोगों से, gather करते हैं data, हमेशा मुश्किल होता है when you have a group of people in a focus group that they tend to hijack the whole discussion to something else. So as a researcher, as an interviewer, you have to, or as a facilitator of focus group discussion, you must know how to begin with something which is unrelated to the topic of your research, because people tend to get a little suspicious. So it's an art that you have to learn how to engage them, how to actually draw out their beliefs, their understanding of any social issue. By talking of something which is very close to their heart. Once they get over that hesitation of speaking, talking, then you can bring the issue of which is the major issue of, or which is the objective of your engagement with them. और बहुत हद तक हम ये देखते हैं कि जब लोग बातचीत करते हैं तो वो अंदर की अपनी जो इच्छाएं हैं, बिलीव्स हैं, वो कम बताते हैं, और जो रेडीमेड आंसर्स हैं वो ज़्यादा देते हैं. तो जो सोशली काइंड ऑफ एक्सेप्टेड बिहेवियर है वो लोग दिखाते हैं. बट हम ये देखते हैं जैसे एक रिसर्च का एरिया है डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस, तो उसमें कई औरतें खुद ही नहीं बताती हैं कि उनके साथ क्या गुजरता है, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ लाइफ दे लीड. सो आई थिंक इट्स वेरी एसेंशियल दैट यू ट्राई टू मोटिवेट. You can use small films, you can use certain pictures, you can use certain anecdotes to bring out people into a discussion, and then spell out the constraints, the challenges that they face in their life. तो जब आप field में जाते हैं तो what are those guidelines that you have to follow? First of all, try to collect as much description of the social reality, and second is to gather information from different perspectives. It should not be a very straight jacketed account of social reality. You should give a more holistic account of what you are watching, what you are seeing, and then you have to cross validate and triangulate by gathering data through different methods. You can use observation, you can use interviews, you can use secondary data which is available, recordings and photographs. You can also use what we call as bubbles or as quotations of people, how they describe their own lives and how they see their own life. For example, I can just give you an example from something that I did in the Pulse Polio program. That when you go and talk to women कि आप अपने बच्चे को पोलियो की दवा क्यों नहीं पिलाती हैं, तो दे से कि एक दफ़ा पिलाना तो काफ़ी है, क्योंकि पोस्टर में लिखा हुआ था कि इससे सारी बीमारियां दूर हो जाएंगी. तो when you try to explain that this is a incident, it's a program which is to be done on every month on a Sunday, then they think that they have a hesitation, there is a credibility issue attached to that. Health services in other ways are not available, how come only pulse polio program is available? So you tend to understand what are the constraints that people feel or face, and you also not only talk to women. If you are doing work on pulse polio, trying to understand the myths and misconceptions prevalent in a society, you need to also talk to opinion leaders, because I think they still hold a very important position in the society in which we are trying to investigate resistance to pulse polio program. I think that same is the case with any other development sector program, whether it is water sanitation, whether it is on education, whether it is on microfinancing areas, where women self-help groups have come up, but they still need to do extra work. Now, one more thing which I like to talk about is the triangulation of data. Triangulation of data in qualitative research is very important, because you are looking at data which is coming from different sources, and it helps you to verify whatever constraints we have in qualitative research will be overcome if you do triangulation of data which is coming from secondary sources, primary sources, and which are also by using different multiple methods to give you an understanding of the social reality. Theory also helps you to give credence to your findings. So you gain not only in credibility of the findings that you have made out, but you have a better understanding of what's happening. And our data ultimately will be in the form of text, videotapes, field notes, visuals, pictures. This is what we work with in qualitative research. Then last point which I like to highlight is that ethical considerations are very important in qualitative research, because you are dealing with people. You need to look at the ethics dimension of research. You have to keep your people well informed about what is the purpose of this research, in what way their responses will help in having a better understanding of a social reality, and how it will actually lead to further correction in any kind of a national or a regional program, and how they are an important factors in having a good understanding of any social phenomena. And I'd just like to say towards the end is that you need to take the consent of people if you are actually making them sit through a focus group discussion, or even taking an in-depth interview like with women, because you're taking their time. So you have to, or especially in a very sensitive area like HIV/AIDS, you need to take their prior consent, and that has to be based on a some kind of a, not just taking it on a piece of paper, but actually sitting through with them, trying to explain that this will not be used against them or against any kind of a financial privilege, but it is only to help in investigating a social phenomena in which they will actually be participating as an equal partner. And many people think of informed consent primarily as a form, but I think it's more than that, and there are ethical dimensions that you need to explain to people, that they are important and equal partners in the process of this whole engagement of describing a social reality. Through them we understand what is happening. We can't be there all the time. It's people who try to give us a clue, who give us an intelligent account of why things are the way they are. So we have seen through this presentation that qualitative research is a very important and an interesting area, and no social science research or no communication or media research can be complete unless we get a qualitative aspect of a social reality as trying to complete the picture of why things happen the way they do, going beyond cause and effect relationship and trying to understand the context, understanding the values, the culture, and the people who are engaging in that enactment of that social reality. Thank you very much.